All right, everybody, let's welcome Clark Lee back to Woodmont. So Clark was with us last summer, and I told him when he walked in, I said, look, two-time SEC Coach of the Year, you're going to have to keep speaking at church if you want this to continue on. So back-to-back. Clark, it's great to have you back. Congrats on last year, the year before. It's just it's a treat for us to be able to sit down and talk to you. So let's give him another welcome. I'm sure. So talk to us. How you doing? Tell how you feeling about the season. Where are we with camp and all those different things?
Yeah. First of all, so good to be here. You know, this has become kind of an annual thing and such a great community for me to interact with. So many friends, family. Very grateful to be with you. You know, we are at an interesting time in our program. I think there's a lot that we can be excited about. Obviously, I don't know that any coach in America feels 100% confident right now. Like, I'm nervous, I'm anxious. I want to get to training camp. I want to address the gaps that we have. I want to try to improve the team. But there's a lot that I'm proud of in the ground we've covered, and a lot of reasons for us to be excited about where this is going. And anytime, you know, I have coached teams at Vanderbilt where you pushed all your chips to the middle of the table, but you didn't have a lot of chips. You know, we actually got some now. You know, so there's really, we have something at stake, and we haven't lost our personality and our soul. And so how do we keep fighting for that? How do we keep advancing the way we're playing football? And honestly, for me, how do we keep and continue to, you know, beat back against the narrative that, you know, Vanderbilt isn't serious about winning football, you know? And I think we've done you know, covered certain ground for that, but there's more for us, and we're trying to win a national championship.
So I got my Diego Pavia jersey on. I figured you told me I need to go get a Jared Curtis jersey, but Diego had an unbelievable run. And obviously he was a big part of what happened the last couple of years. So can you talk to us about Jared Curtis and kind of what your hopes and expectations are? How does he look? True freshman, Nashville Christian, I think maybe one of the first 5-star recruits, not the only, maybe one of the few that Vandy's had, which was a huge deal. Yeah. But how's he looking, and how are you feeling about that transition?
Well, fortunately for you, he's also wearing number 2, so you can just take the jersey off to me. And I wish I'm gonna touch on this very briefly, but I wish that you guys could have been in the offices when Diego was fighting against the idea that Jared Curtis would wear number 2. And, you know, Jared has number 2 tattooed on his arm. And so Diego was telling him he's going to have to get a 1 in front of it and be number 12, and all in playfulness. You know, Jared's got a girlfriend too, and her name's also tattooed on his arm. And they broke up for a brief spell this spring. And so you have some, you know, there's a lack of a frontal lobe there that we're helping Jared with. Listen, first of all, in fairness to the program, I mean, we're gonna have 4 guys really taking a swing at this job, and you know, I'm not gonna name the starting quarterback at SC Media Days next week. We're certainly not gonna make news tonight here.
You don't want to name your quarterback at Woodmont Christian
No,
Church?
you know, maybe I should. Maybe that's you know, that'll be good luck for us. But I think Jared warrants attention. This is one of the best high school players in this area, in the history of football in this area. I mean, he is really that good. And what I love about Jared is there's an authenticity to him. He is a very simple person. He's respectful. He works really hard. You know, and this is, I kind of, I've learned this through my experience as being a coach. You know, there's who you are as a person and as a human, and then there's this kind of cartoon character that everyone has an opinion about. And for me to come in, do you guys understand what I'm saying? So like, it's like this caricature of me that everyone wants to have an opinion about. And then there's me, the person who's sitting with you today, the person who's with my team every day, the person who's, goes home and is a dad and a husband, all those things. And I experienced this transformation where people started really paying attention to what I was doing as a performer when I was the defense coordinator at Notre Dame. So I was mid-30s, and I wasn't quite prepared for it, but I was old enough and had enough foundation to where I got knocked down a few times, got back on my feet. Jared Curtis has had to do this as a 17-year-old, right? He's had to live in a world where everyone wants to have an opinion on who he is and what he does. And I am so thankful that when I was 17 and 18, that people weren't paying attention to what I was doing, because I don't know that I'd be sitting here with you today if they were. And so let's start by this. Let's not unfairly judge someone that we don't know. There's a lot of stories out there that just simply aren't true. They're misrepresentations of the truth. The truth is, this is a genuine, hardworking, and humble kid who has reached a point of success that has allowed him to get resources, and he is learning how to, he is learning that the person is the player, and that, being in routines and having discipline in everything that he does is going to allow him to be the kind of player he wants to be. He is very serious about being a good football player. Nike, he's one of few Nike athletes in college football. I don't even know all that I'm talking about, but somehow he's in a tier of college football player where I hear from the Nike rep all the time about what Jared's doing and what what event they have him a part of, Well, Nike wanted him to come out to Oregon to the opening, which for me, as the coach at Vanderbilt, I see value in the idea that we have this person who becomes a great billboard for our program, and so the exposure doesn't bother me at all. And a part of this was that he was going to need to be gone for a couple days. And so I talked to the Nike rep, and I talked to Jared's agent about it, and then we approached Jared with it and said, hey, we'd like to, if you want to do this, we'd be interested in you doing it. Well, Jared's response is, will I miss training? And the answer is yes. And he said, well, I'm not going. He wants to be the starting quarterback, and he's way more concerned with being in the grind with his teammates and earning that job than going out and being a part of the flash and the flare and getting the attention. And he's someone that I meet with and I've met with weekly or once every 2 weeks just to sit and talk and to be with, because I enjoy him and I think I owe that to him too. So we're super excited. Now, the football player, listen, there are things he does that I've never seen on a college football field. Throws he makes, his ability to get out of an evade rush, throw on the move. And so there's a lot to be excited about that way. What we're bringing him along in is just in his process, his ability to empower the other 10 guys on the field and make sure the offense can run effectively too. But super excited about where that's headed.
So how was Vandy able to get him? He was committed to Georgia for a long time. I know Diego played a role in that, but what ultimately allowed you to say, hey, stay home, play football in Nashville, this is where you need to be?
So I spoke at Barstool Sports, and it's a very interesting. First of all, are you guys familiar with Barstool Sports? I don't know if I'm talking to a crowd that knows what Barstool Sports is.
Some of them are. Some of them are, yeah.
Okay. It's like the world of internet hot takes, and I'm like the anti-hot take coach. I don't do that necessarily, and not to mention the fact it's it's a bar. So it's like 10 a.m. and I'm going downtown to the bar to talk to this group of people, and they asked me this same question, Clay, and I spun this story about me and Kirby Smart speeding from Athens and Nashville in sports car to win Jared, who's in the middle of a decision. And I had a Ferrari and Kirby had a Corvette, and it just so happened that Jared liked Ferrari's better, and so we got him at Vanderbilt, which obviously is not true. Here's the truth of how this happened. Jared was unsettled in his decision. We had actually, we hadn't really recruited him. He and his mom came over in 2024. We were for the Tennessee week. He sat in the Monday or the Tuesday team meeting in the Tennessee week, and we had an interaction in the hallway after that. But honestly, part of being effective is being efficient, and it didn't feel like Vanderbilt was going to be the place for him. You know, he was committed to Georgia early. Then he opened his recruitment back up, but it really was Oregon and Georgia where he was focused. So didn't spend a lot of time and attention recruiting him. Well, he was unsettled and he was paying attention. And the way we started our season out, and it also just happens that his head coach, Jeff Brothers, is a former Vanderbilt football player, which doesn't hurt either. The way that we started our season out, he was watching, and the way we were playing on offense got him excited. And we were 5-1. We had just lost to Alabama on the road, and he came over to watch a practice in our bye week. And afterwards, he came up and sat on the couch, and we hung out. And it's just like, hey, tell me about where you're at. Obviously, you're here, so you're a little unsettled. You know, how can I be helpful to you right now, Jared? And we kind of went back and forth, and he sat with our offensive coordinator and talked some football. That was it. At some point, Diego goes to watch him play in a game. I think that made an impression on him. And then he came back for our Missouri game and was in our team meeting that Saturday, those are really cool meetings to be a part of. And I think he just kind of fell in love with what we were becoming. He came back for our second bye week. We spent a little more time on the field together. And basically, through that and through him paying attention, I think he realized that he wanted to stay home. Here's someone who chose to stay at Nashville Christian when he could have gone anywhere, probably in the country, to play high school football, but certainly in any of the other private schools that play in the state of Tennessee would have taken him in a heartbeat, and may have had reason to kind of recruit him in that. But he wanted to stay at Nashville Christian because of his friends and the community. So this is a person who cares deeply about the people he surrounds himself with. And I think he really connected with the people in our program, and you know, that was kind of the extent of it. I mean, once I was able to sign my extension, and honestly, you know, I signed my extension. My family was in the room when I did that. It was Thanksgiving Day. I told the team, very emotional team meeting for me, and then I called Jared. And I said, no, I'm in, you're in, and the rest is history.
So I saw my buddy Jimmy Sexton slip in the back. So
Oh, nice.
Last fall, there were a number of us that were talking to whoever the powers that be that we knew in the Vandy world. When are we going to extend Clark? When are we going to extend Clark? And then they did, thank the Lord. Some of us wondered why it took till Thanksgiving to get that done. But how did that feel? Because that had to be a huge, boost of confidence, what you've accomplished. Vandy saying, we want you to continue to be our coach. I mean, those of us who were talking about it were worried that everybody and their brother was coming after you. And I think maybe they were. But how did it feel when you got that extension, when Vanderbilt says, we want you to be our coach until?
Well, I think first of all, and then Davis is here too, with Jimmy and Davis, those guys, and CA, Howie Newchild, who really has become as much of a friend as anything. These are people that, they fight for me to be able to do the things I want to do, and part of that is to want to stay at Vanderbilt. So our sport is so messed up. I mean, it's just impossible right now to do anything that makes any sense. And a part of that is when you're experiencing a contract negotiation in the season, it is the ultimate in, living in two places. And I'm someone, you can't be the head coach at Vanderbilt and not be a guy that's all the way in. So I'm all the way in, and my belief in what we're doing and who we are and where we're going is so effortless. And it's I don't know if you guys have ever seen the documentary, Man on Wire. Has anybody seen that? Okay, thank you, God, because you're the only one. And
One person.
this is me and you.
Everybody go home and watch it.
I think it was 1974, Philippe Petit. So I'm going to take a minute on this, if that's all right.
Please.
So this is a Frenchman who snuck into the World Trade Centers, and he strung a wire. So the Trade Centers weren't finished yet. He strung a wire between the two buildings, and as night became day, for 45 minutes, he traversed this wire back and forth with no safety, no support. At 45 minutes, and now I'm talking about he walked the wire, he laid on the wire, he sat on the wire, suspended above Manhattan. And at 45 minutes, the police came and he was arrested and all that kind of stuff. And I saw this in 2008. I was 27 years old. I was coaching at UCLA, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine anything more terrifying than that. And so I put this picture on my desk that I still have of Philippe Petit on the wire in between the two trade centers. And the message that I was taking from it at 27 was, fear is relative. It's not truth. So what it's within us, it's not true in the world. What I can be afraid of may not make you afraid. And so in this way, we can overcome fear. Does that make sense?
Right.
Okay. Does that make sense? I don't know. Okay, good. So, all right, so the best I can, so this picture's on my desk, and as we're going through this contract negotiation, and you're living in two worlds, and you're coaching a team by day, and you're meeting with other programs by night, and you feel the tug of that at every step. And again, this is where Jimmy and Davis and Howie and CAA becomes everything, because they don't publicize it. You know, it's important to me that this stays very private, because I don't want it to impact the team that I love and care about. And they honor that. That is not true of every situation. I'm grateful for that. You're living in this duality, and the tension is pulling you every day, and you realize that in that picture, like, that is me on that wire. And what you're walking in, and this is true of faith too, you're walking in your belief. Think about what faith means with respect to what you're actually living out, what you're actualizing day in, day out. When you live in your belief, you don't recognize that you're suspended thousands of feet above the ground, and you don't realize how dangerous it really is. And then all of a sudden you start living this double life where you're in your belief by morning, and by night you're challenging everything that you know to be true. And then you look down and say, oh my God, this is really dangerous. And is that the wind I feel? And are the buildings shifting? And so I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about what was important to me. And the moment that I knew it was right to come back was this moment of clarity that our work's not finished yet. And I kind of had in my mind, and I think this decision comes from my spiritual center, where it's like, I actually know that there will be a time to leave. I know that's true, because this can't go on forever. I hope that I leave on my own terms, you know, and if we don't do well, please continue to support. But all things come to an end. Now's not the time. For me to sit in front of my team and to be able to say that to them on Thanksgiving meant more than I could ever express. Also, to understand the family parts of this, like where, hey, you know, I mean, my kids are seeing a turnstile in my house with all these different schools, and it's like, you know, I can't hide that from them. They're aware, but for them to know there's foundation and stability too means the world. And I'll tell you, I think there's so much in that process that I learned about what's making Vanderbilt successful right now, and it's this alignment from top down. You know, we have a chancellor that is super aggressive and believes in our program. We have an athletics director that was at this meeting a year ago. She couldn't make it tonight, but she called me before, and she's like, I'm so sorry, I'm not going to be coming to here. I'm like, are you serious? You listen to me all the time. You don't need to come. But that's who she is, you know? here's someone who perfectly supports me in my role. And when it wasn't going well, when I was at my worst, she was at her best. You know, you can't actually put a price tag on that kind of alignment. And I think in some ways we sometimes overvalue a logo and undervalue the people. But that came through to me when I went through that process, and I was very, again, grateful to have it come to a completion. And listen, I've been told there are no Tennessee fans in this room. I hope that's true.
It's not true.
This is church. This is church.
They keep asking me to get Heupel here, and I'm like, I don't know Heupel.
Yeah. Listen, the day you get Heupel here, we're done, okay? Just kidding. Thank you. But think about this. You sign that extension, and then you go to Knoxville, and you finish the season the way we did last year. I couldn't imagine a cooler few days, and so, yeah, very thankful for that.
Well, so I think we need to, let's thank Davis and Jimmy and Clark for sticking around and getting that done last year, because that was a really big deal. So CAA guys, thank you. I know you were. So now we want to talk about Lane Kiffin. Let's talk about how that unfolded at the end of the. That's all again. All right, Clark. We got into this last year.
Yeah.
A lot of changes in college football, and frankly, there's been a lot of talk this year, including Nick Saban going to Capitol Hill to weigh in on this. I just, I would love to know. We talked about this a little bit last year, but what thoughts do you have around where things are? It is wild. It is crazy. There's talks about, do we need to cap the transfers to one? Do we need to, there's a lot of talk about, other sports going out of business because all the money is going to the revenue sports. What are your thoughts right now, knowing that it's always changing, about where we are, and maybe what do you think, if you're willing to say, needs to happen or not happen?
Yeah.
Not that that's in your control.
Look, this is a really challenging time. And there's so many good things that are coming out of this time. And yet, I think there are a lot of things that threaten the game as we know it. And if you would ask me, maybe even when you asked me last year, I talked about a federal solution. And there's a bipartisan bill right now that, to be honest with you, I think does more damage than it does good. And so what you're seeing is pushback, because they're trying to approach a problem by creating other problems. I don't know if that sounds like politics, but that's what's going on.
They do that up there.
I think they do. And so there's a chance it gets worse before it gets better. It's hard in any situation to put toothpaste back in the tube. And I'm not sure what's actually going to happen to get our game stabilized. And I do think, not to fearmonger, I do think that there is a world where it all breaks before it's fixed. I think that's true, and I don't know when that would happen. I think if we don't start addressing this in the next 5 years, I think you're going to start to see non-revenue sports threatened, and I think you're going to start to see departments and universities, honestly, struggle to stay open. And so it's interesting. We're going to have SEC Media Days next week. I'm sure this is going to be a huge topic of conversation. I've seen letters written from others of our conference schools, coming out against kind of the current legislation as it is. There needs to be adjustments made to get anything done, and DC is really, really hard. So to have, in some way, salary caps to cut into some of the spending that's going on right now, to somehow create a calendar that makes sense where you don't have coaches leaving teams, while teams are in competition. That's not fair to anybody. To allow for freedom of movement, but maybe put restriction on the number of times that can happen. I think all those things are worth talking about. It's just the actual change becomes really complicated, because you're talking about an ununionized group of players and coaches. So you can't collectively bargain until there's some kind of representation. Where does employment status fit into that? Right? We always point to the NFL, but these two things are built on very different principles. Where does revenue share come into play? Again, this current bill that's being proposed is talking about basically all the media rights revenue being pooled together. Well, if you're in the SEC and the Big Ten, you're not interested in that, because if you look at the numbers, we are the ones that drive the eyeballs, and the SEC is the highest of those. So it's a really layered and complicated scenario, and I think you need about 6 law degrees to understand the antitrust elements in this. So I don't know what to say. I think what I focus on is the ground that my feet occupy now. I think it's never been more important to be a coach. It's never been more important to model modesty, to demonstrate authenticity, to not reach for symbols of power, which is so easy to do. What I mean is, the car I drive, the clothes I wear, et cetera, but actually to teach and to model what it means to carve away from inside out. The gift that God's given us is within us. It's not external to us. And yet we spend so much time layering things on top of who we are, and we bury that gift. I tell the team, you are the only threshold into your inner world, and that is the gift of God. And when we reach for symbols of power and when we put things on top of that, we lose touch with that spiritual center. And when we work like the wood carver and we cut away, we actually have a chance to live out that gift. And those are things that we talk about. I mean, I am in a constant fight against the barriers that would naturally come into play when dealing with a team that is earning money. If I don't fight against it, our locker room will end up looking like our world. And there's $1 million club, and there's a $500,000 club, and there's a $30,000 club, and then the guys that don't get anything are treated like second-class citizens. And I refuse to have that happen. And so I try to do everything I can to message it, to actualize it, to model it, and to hopefully maintain a program where we're really proud of who we are and how we treat each other and what we represent in a world that is, in a lot of conflict right now.
So this spring, Barton Simmons, who's done an amazing job, Barton's a friend and a part of this church, he alluded to a time, I guess it was probably fall of 23, when things weren't great, before Diego decided to transfer in. And then you basically had the run that you've had the last 2 years where you've been named SEC Coach of the Year twice and done. How did you dig deep? Because I know there were some tough times in there. Yeah. How did you dig deep and instill the kind of mindset, culture, values that now define Vandy football, that I hope will continue to define Vandy football, to be able to do what you've done the last couple of years? And so what does that look like? What role does your faith play? What you just mentioned, trying to make everybody equal part of the team and not have it look like the world, but how have you done that since that time when it was tough for a while?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I've got a lot of battle scars. There's no way to make it through what we've gone through and not at times be face down on the floor in the office. I mean, Barton tells a story, I don't know if he's shared this one with you, we had in the winter of 23, back when we used to do team banquets. We don't do those anymore because you don't know. The Christmas party? Well, and it's like you're awarding the team, and then, you wake up the next day and half the awarded guys have left. It's just like, what do you do? And we were trying to figure out how to make it through. And I famously, at least within the office, had like this power bite from Urban Juicer. If you guys know what power bites are, it's like a peanut butter oat thing. And I threw it as hard as I could against the wall and exploded everywhere, which only added another problem that I needed to solve by cleaning it up. But I have, we don't ever want to go through those challenges. I don't want to do it again. What I've learned is it is inevitable that there's going to be struggle ahead. And rather than see that struggle as, I don't want to go through it, but rather than see it as something that's an obstacle, that's sending a message to me that I'm not on the right path, I now choose to see struggle as an indicator that I'm on the right path, that I'm actually doing something righteous that I believe in, and that means I'm going to meet these obstacles, and those become the challenges through which we grow and evolve. And I think I had just enough fortitude and belief that every time I was knocked down, I just, with the help of my wife and a close circle of people that always have my back, you just get back up, you dust off, and you kind of say, okay, what's the next right thing to do the right way? That's Don Meyer, by the way. Next right thing the right way. And over time, you start to realize that one of the things in that winter of 23 that was so helpful to me, and I don't know why I don't know what was there that why I settled on this philosophy. It was like, okay, what am I learning? So if I believe that Vanderbilt's going to be successful in 15 years, and I look back on this day, December 23, what am I learning that's allowing me to pivot in ways that unlocks the potential of this program? Why don't we look at our struggles in that light? This is meant for me. There's something I'm meant to draw from it. How am I going to learn and apply and evolve and pivot and unlock the potential of a program? And that's kind of what we did. And it's just like, okay, one day at a time, one thing at a time, I need to make a change in the weight room. I need to make a change at offensive coordinator. I'm going to take over the defense because I want to be really proud of how that group plays. I get back in front of the team as a teacher in that defensive coordinator role, and all of a sudden I'm reinvigorated with why football is so meaningful to me and how special that relationship is when you are teaching. And so, it just all, I guess, in the moment, you just think the breakthrough is inevitable, and you have to find a way to it. I will also tell you that in that month, December of 23, I had so many really eloquent mission vision statements, and we deleted all that and said the mission's winning. That's it. And everything we're going to do is going to be measured against what it means to win, and winning isn't a result, it is a process. And so, every dollar we spend, every coach we hire, every decision we make, I'm going to stop majoring in minors, and I'm only going to focus on what winning football looks like. And fortunately for us in our game is a vessel to self-discovery, so you can focus on winning without losing the holistic parts of it. Because being a great teammate is about being humble enough to open yourself up to relationships. So look, there's going to be more struggle ahead, and what I've learned is that's okay. And what I'm not going to do is spend time thinking about how it's viewed externally. I'm going to turn internal and focus on how we maintain perspective and vision, and I am the protector of that vision at every stop. And so I cannot get in front of my team until I am reconnected with the vision that I have in my heart. And that means I got to get off the floor, I got to dust myself off, I got to think about what this is I'm learning, and then by the time I'm with them, they need to feel my confidence in where we're headed.
A lot of people want to know this. You and I have talked about this a little bit, but with all the changes, with what's going on in college sports, would you say that the concept of the student athlete is gone? Or is it just, last year we acknowledged that it's become much more challenging.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that I think have become cynical because they're saying, well, these kids don't really want to get an education. All they care about is getting paid and making the NFL. But what about the whole concept of the student athlete? And I know I know because I've had a lot of your players that you tell them, you go to class, you do your work. What are your thoughts on that, where that stands now?
I think we have to recognize in our society where we're responsible for how short-sighted our young people have become. This actually scares me more than anything else. I think I think I worry about what it says to a person. Remember, the person is the player, that your value is wrapped up in how you perform. I think that's a really dangerous thing to communicate to an 18-year-old. I think it's a dangerous thing to communicate to a 44-year-old. And yet that's what we're doing. So how do I build a program that sees and coaches the person first? Really important. But I am worried about this throwaway education. I think there's a couple, and I'm so proud of Vanderbilt right now because I think we are. There was an article, and it was maybe Wall Street Journal today. I came across. I haven't finished it yet, but it was on Vandy. It was how Vandy's competing with the Ivies, and in a time where higher education is being scrutinized at a level that is really devaluing it on a society level. We have created something that's really relevant and actually growing and becoming more and more consequential at Vanderbilt. I think the chancellor's position on university neutrality is so important in that. I think his edicts on open and honest dialogue, so important in that. In some ways, what had happened to Vanderbilt, while I was gone, is we had built fences up, and there became this really elite feel to the university campus, and I think we've torn those fences down. It feels that way to me. But what is education? Education is not a piece of paper you pick up after 4 years. Education is a process. Education is something that is with you every step of the way. How important is it to have a philosophy? How important is it to have a lens through which you view your experience? How important is it to think for yourself, to think critically, to communicate clearly? And we're not putting value on those things because of this material reward. And so do I believe that we're seeing the kind of end of the student athlete? I think that's in our choice. I think we still have a chance here to make the school part of it important. By the way, we've had 9 consecutive semesters as a program of over a 3.0 GPA. So, thanks.
Yeah.
So, you don't have to. You don't have to compromise. You can. And we're imperfect. Clay knows. I mean, he said he's had some of our players, and some of those texts are, hey, these guys are unbelievable. And some of it's like, hey, where is this kid? Because I haven't seen him in a couple weeks. I mean, that's real. Part of my job is to parent. The common thread of everyone in my locker room is they're all sons. So I've got to shepherd them. But we need to get serious about how we're preparing young people, because what is true of every single one of them, they're going to be non-football players a lot longer in their life than they're football players. Some of them will be able to make life-changing money in the NFL, and yet who's inspired by the thought of a 32-year-old talking about his glory days? That is like nothing is less inspiring to me than that. And so how are we preparing these people? And look, if you told me at 18 that I don't have to go to class, guess what? I'm not going to class, right? We need to be the adults in the room. And it's our job and responsibility to help, again, shepherd and teach standards and help people actualize the person within them that they're trying to become.
So I want to drill down on that. Knowing you're not just coaching them on the football field. You got a great coaching staff. You've got a great system, but you are coaching them to get ready for life. So what does that mean? What are the values that you're teaching them through the channel of football, but it's much more about the bigger picture, not just right now?
So we have program principles that are important to us that kind of form the basis of everything we interact with. First of all, every day it's about the mission. It's about mission alignment. Mission's winning. We use the spear to symbolize alignment in our program. 3 tips, got to move in one direction to be effective. And and again, that may sound like a sport thing, but no, that's a human thing. You know, what gets accomplished if we're not aligned? This is everything that we're going through as a country right now in our politics. You know, how do we get things done? We gotta find collaboration, alignment, and so that is an important value to us. That looks a certain way. We talk about one of the they're all near and dear to us, but one of our program principles, belief is a practice. So I don't need you to tell me about what you believe in. It'll show up in the way you work. And if I just look at you, I can tell by what you're investing in what's important to you. We have another one it's head, body, head, body. It comes from this movie, The Fighter, which have you seen The Fighter? Okay, has anybody seen The Fighter? A couple, okay, no, that was an eye scratch. All right, okay, very good. So you guys got to go see movies. I don't know what you're doing with your time. But it's just the boxer's mindset that head, body is about, you can't knock your opponent out in one punch. There's a presence to that. I'm not gonna forecast. I'm not gonna create anxiety about what's happening next, and I'm not going to carry the burden of the past with me in this moment. I am perfectly where my feet are, and I'm focused on the next punch. Body shots accumulate. That is a philosophy. You know, better people make a better team. This is about the person is the player. And so, you know, how do we understand the lessons we learn in football aren't just for the football field? You know, when we come to understand how you do anything is how you do everything. When you come to understand that the life you lead outside of the building is either in support of or working against the life that you want within the building, you can start to really level up and to unlock your potential as a human, right? So this is something that's important to us. I could go through all of them. I think I've hit like maybe 3. The one that I want to spend just a moment on is this concept of relatedness. And you hear a lot in sport about brotherhood and about family, and I settled on the word relatedness. It came to me at least from a Martin Shaw book, and I don't know if has anybody read Martin Shaw. Okay, no. There's a book, Liturgies of the Wild, that I would encourage you all to read. It's incredible. This guy is he's an expert in myth and mythology and the stories that create the human experience. Relatedness is this sense of belonging and connectedness. It's the idea that what I do impacts the people that I love and care about. It's pre-strategic. So we don't do this to simply, relatedness, our edge, is not a statement of how we play better football. Relatedness is our edge, is a statement of how we learn to care and see one another more clearly. And so the image for this is this circle with a flame inside of it. But here's the idea that sometimes we see belonging as stripping away our individuality. So when I belong to something, I sacrifice a part of who I am. We see that circle, that belonging, as the beginning of your full expression of who you are. And I think that's a really important distinction. We're not burdened by the standards and responsibilities that come with being a Vanderbilt football player. But we understand that within this space, we are able and we're called to fully express ourselves. Football and performance is creative. It's way more right brain than left brain. And so how you teach people to bring their whole heart to something, that's part of relatedness. And we're responsible to bring that. And each one of us in bringing that to the circle creates something. This is the alchemy of team. It's bigger than any one individual. So those are the things for me that we focus on, the holistic parts of this. And I mean, they hear this stuff from me every day. So like I could be in a team meeting right now and having some kind of this conversation. I'll make it a little funnier when I'm in front of the guys, but I've had a couple jokes in here today, I think. This is our language, is what we talk about. And, I think they appreciate the fact that it goes beyond just the X and the O.
I do want to save a little time for a couple audience questions. So But I asked you this last year, and I want to ask it to you again. What can we continue to do to support you and the program? Because I feel like Nashville has rallied. You've certainly given us something to be very, very proud of. But what can we continue to do to support you as you continue to build on the success you've already had? I mean, we're proud of you. We're thankful for you, and I hope you know that. But we want to know what we can do to keep supporting you.
Well, first of all, and I don't know if Clay told you this, but by coming here tonight, each one of you is agreed to $10,000 for NIL donation. So thank you for that support. I'm just kidding.
There's an iPad at the door. It's got a square on it.
Put the, what do they say, QR code? Put the QR code up.
Yeah, we got QR codes here. They won't take you to any NIL pages.
That's right. No, I think I said this a year ago, and I mean this sincerely. This is my hometown. This is my community. It's so interesting, being a Nashvilleian and being the coach at Vanderbilt. You're really in a melting pot of every SEC fan base, and so for those of you that are Vanderbilt fans, continue to show up. I appreciate that, just coming to games, being around, engaging with our players. For those of you that aren't, I'm still in line to be your second favorite team, I mean that, there's gonna come a point in time where they don't have enough room for second favorites anymore. We're not there quite yet. Buy season tickets. I actually think, as I say that, I think we've actually sold out the allotment of season tickets that we planned for. So find a friend that has season tickets, come to the game. I'm gonna try to keep making it harder and harder to get into. And if you have season tickets, show up in black and gold. Don't sell them when we play Tennessee, please, because I do not want to see orange in that stadium. But I appreciate this. I appreciate you showing up tonight. I appreciate when you show up to our games. I appreciate when you cheer for us when we're on TV. I appreciate when you're thinking about Vanderbilt football as you have community in church, and so know that in doing those things that you are in full support of me and the program that we're attempting to build.
All right, let's. We got a microphone back here. Put your hand up if you have a question for Clark. We'll hit a couple of them and then we'll close it down for tonight. We do have dinner served downstairs, Martin's Barbecue, after this is done, if you're interested. Right here, Claudia.
Okay, Coach, thank you for being here. My name is Claudia. You are my second favorite team, and you very rarely play my first favorite, but you did on New Year's Eve. And I'm curious, when you talked to Coach Ferentz after the game, what did y'all talk about? And he was there when I was there over 20 years ago. So what do you see the advantages and challenges to a tenure that long in college football?
Well, first of all, such a deep respect for that program, even before we played them. After we played them, I was even more in awe. It was neat for me to be able to be there with him. One of the things that's challenging as a coach is you're always looking for mentors and people that can help you. And yet there's so many different personalities that you can't coach outside of who you are. So I look for people that are thoughtful, that are intense, that have disciplined teams. I can't be the celebrity coach. It's just not how I'm wired, And so to be able to compete with him, but more importantly, to get to know him, was really meaningful to me. And I got a chance to spend some time with him in a few days. One was, there was a kind of a celebration that happened prior to the game. I saw him again at an event there, and then obviously on the field afterwards, where I really just acknowledged the way they played and the respect I have for that. But what was cool was we exchanged numbers, and that led to phone calls. So I've enjoyed kind of picking his brain. The other thing too that's amazing is his level of curiosity. I mean, I want to ask the questions. And whenever I get on with these elite coaches, Corbs is this way too. Every time I talk to him, it's like, how does he end up asking me more questions than I ask him? I came to talk to you, So that would be, so you asked about the longevity, the tenure. I think his curiosity, his consistency, the the ability to live in a way that is in support of the marathon this is. I think way more people flame out and burn out than sustain, So all those things are admirable, and, I hope to be able to kind of have a similar career, but great program, great coach, and ton of respect for them.
Here we go. All right. Right there in the back.
Hey, first just want to say I really appreciate and admire the fact that what you say translates to your actions. So thank you for that. And I don't know if it's the competitor in me or the parent in me, but it seems like there's a lot being left on the table in terms of connecting the church with the sports community, with those that are just, wanting to help others and care. And athletes have such a great platform. There's kids that are looking up, pointing to the sky, the eye black with the crosses. And I would say a lot of them don't even really know what that means in action. It's just they see it on TV or whatever, their favorite player's doing it. And as the parent of a player at Vanderbilt also, I'm curious if there's an opportunity to give them additional scenarios. Like, you don't just wake up and know CPR. You don't know how to throw a football or a baseball or basketball, right? Intentionally quality leadership that has the church, the faith values, because they have so much passion, right? And if is that something that you're seeing that could be more intentional? And if so, is that something that the community could help support?
Probably also a somewhat difficult to walk because they're not all the same faith or tradition or denomination, and you have to, I'm sure, keep in mind how you do that as well.
Yeah. So here's one thing I'll tell you, and to this point, and whether this is right or wrong, I don't know. Our entire team is in team chapel on Fridays of game weeks. So So we have Lance Brown works with our team. He's actually been a part of the program since I was playing there. And, we went through year one. I mean, I was so spun around. I was trying to figure out which way was up, which way was down, and he kind of came in and challenged me because I had been responsible for the FCA when I was at Syracuse. The coach there didn't trust the FCA representative for whatever reason, so he put me in charge of the spiritual development of the team. And I came to see Lance, and I said, "Hey, will you show me what you do?" And so he was really excited about our collaboration, and he felt like I was falling short in my end of that. And obviously, first thing, you appreciate someone who's going to come in and tell you the truth. Mm-hmm. And then I started to think about ways that we could strengthen. And so what we settled on, or what I settled on, was, we're going to have a team meeting at 5:20, and then we're going to have chapel at 5:40, and then we're walking over together to dinner after that. And so we have 100% of the program hearing a non-football message, a biblical message every week. And we've had Jewish players, we've had Muslim players, and I always talk to them both in front of the team and then on sidebars to say, this is not about being Christian, it's about acknowledging that there is a power greater than you in the world. And you don't have to stay in if you want to leave, but they all choose to stay because they are part of the community. We have a very strong faith center on the team. I would agree with you that it's not always perfect. And I think sometimes, just like young people in general, they reach for the symbols before they actually live the life. But I'm proud of the way our team has developed a spiritual core. This is not to ramble on and on. To answer your question, I think there's always room for support, collaboration, awareness, creation. I think we demand a lot of their time and a lot of their attention. And so that's where I have to be careful, because every time I prescribe something for them, I'm pulling out of the reservoir of energy, attention, all of that. You would be amazed. I mean, some of you know intimately what the life of these kids is like, but I mean, every minute of every day is scheduled. And not that, finding time for faith isn't really important. We do that in the ways that we do that. We would need to think a little more deeply about what that might look like in a way that's like, if you're interested, here's something that's available to you. Those things to me become really great avenues for support rather than things that are mandated or, become part of the regimen.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And just to clarify, mine was more about filling their moral cup in the sense of not a like prescription for a particular religion, but just
Talk about leadership
within
training
that,
in general.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
And it's not to avoid the conflict kind of thing. So I appreciate that though.
So important. And by the way, too, like what we've added with the financial parts of this is more stress and strain on them. A lot of these guys are actually the caretakers of their family. And so imagine what that feels like.
Right.
Now also when you're trying to catch the football. And you're not just catching the ball, you're catching your parents' and siblings' livelihood, So I think filling that cup is super important, and we're always looking for ways to enhance the way we do that.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's do maybe one or two more. Back here.
Coach, I'm Ed Holt, class of '59,
Oh, very nice.
and a longtime supporter of Vanderbilt athletics. First, congratulations on an excellent season. I actually have 4 questions.
Very nice.
Pick your favorite one.
Hopefully we have 4 hours.
Could we possibly dream of a 13-0 season and a trip to the Sugar Bowl?
Yes, that's the fastest answer I've had all night.
Were you able to maintain your excellent assistants?
We were. We lost a D-line coach to Michigan. He'd been with us for 4 years. I've learned to see that as opportunity for us too. But this is about university support. So part of my contract came with increased salary pool, and we're going to retain the best of the best. So yes.
Are you planning on paying the players?
Oh, we're paying them.
Yeah,
And
that's part of the deal now. Yeah.
Yeah, this is our 24 was our first year, so this is our 3rd year kind of active in this. I'm talking about 24 is our first year paying the team, and so you don't anymore. You don't have a chance if you don't.
My last question is, when do season tickets go on sale?
So Ed, I hate to tell you, they've been sold. I think if you want to come with my dad, he'll take you to the game. He's up here in the front row. So
Thank you, Coach.
he'll bring you to a practice too if you want to come. He's become the mayor of the practice facility.
All right, good questions. We got time for maybe one more, and then get ready for dinner. Mark.
Coach Mark Barrett, class of '80. Thank you for being here. In 1969, I was with Jerry Patterson, and we ran out on the field because Vanderbilt beat Alabama. In 1984, my dad said, "Hey, let's go to the dog track and then go to the Vandy game." So I saw Vanderbilt beat Alabama in 1984, and then I had my grandchildren with me in 2025.
No
So
kidding.
I've seen all 3.
Wow.
But my question is,
Well, hang on a second. Now, we play them again this year. So are you planning on being in the game?
Yes.
Okay.
Alabama's coming to town.
I went and watched Nashville Christian beat Innsworth. Now, that's a Division II single A playing a Division II 3A, and I saw what he can do. Here's my question. I'm concerned that we may put him on the field too soon. So just address the fact that he may be the best quarterback on the team, but how are you going to transition? I don't want him to lose his confidence. I don't want him to get beat up. So talk to us about how you plan on handling that.
Or would you say, maybe a broader question to not put you on the spot is,
Yeah.
you believe that these Jared and the other 3 guys you mentioned, they're going to compete for the starting quarterback job. How do you and your staff go about doing that in camp? How do you analyze that?
Yeah. So, well, I mean, again, to go back and say, look, we are I mean, we'll be practicing tomorrow morning. It's Tuesday, Thursday, the entire summer. We're not in pads, but we spend an inordinate amount of time with these players. There's a world where if Jared is the quarterback, that he is going to have to learn through the mistakes of being a freshman quarterback. And what becomes really important is that we support him through that. And what that would look like would be certainly understanding the emotional stress and strain that you go through when you're learning through mistakes on the field. Certainly, it would also be having a strong enough team around him to have his back and to encourage him when he makes bad throws. But that would be true of any of these guys. What my job is to best position the team for success. And that certainly can be immediate success, but also what growth looks like over time too. And so as we go through this competition, as we kind of force feed reps through fall camp, I think it's important for him to get as much, if not more, than the others, just because they've had more time than he's had. But we have to pay attention to this question of, is he ready? And ready doesn't mean that he can make the call and make the throw, because he can do that. Ready means, is he physically, mentally, and emotionally prepared to accept the responsibility of being the quarterback of the football team, which comes with the scrutiny, the good plays and the bad plays, and the hard. And that'll be the points of evaluation. That doesn't mean that, look, if you ask me what has been most meaningful about being the coach of Vanderbilt, it's not being home, it's not being an alma mater. I hope I am not offending by saying this. It's been getting my ass kicked and learning about myself and having the support of people around me to keep me on my feet, as we talked about earlier. That's actually become the best part of it. And so if he is out there, he's going to have to learn to deal with that too. But we don't approach that in a way that if we put him out there, it's not going to be because we've changed our mind in one throw. It's going to be because we have his back, we support him, and it's my job to make sure he continues to grow and learn as he deals with the successes and the failures that come with it.
I watched Jared in the state championship game, I guess up at Tennessee Tech, and just watched it on TV. And I don't remember how many touchdowns he had by halftime, but it was a lot. And he's just sitting back, just throwing these bombs. And facing SEC linemen as a freshman is going to be a different ballgame than the state championship game up at Tennessee Tech. I have a friend who's the CEO of Learfield Sports, and he gave a talk in Nashville last year. And he talked about the hard cap and the soft cap, meaning the amount of money that schools can now pay the players. But then there's also this kind of NIL, you mentioned Nike, other business opportunities. What do you say to people who are like, well, Vandy can come up with money to pay the players, but we don't have the alumni base or, of the Ohio States or the Tennessees or the LSUs to hit the soft cap, which is the part that's kind of the Wild Wild West. When people ask about that, can Vandy compete in that area?
Yeah, so I appreciate this question. There's a couple of things here. The first is Vanderbilt has to be really careful not to be self-limiting, okay? It's so interesting when a perspective calcifies, and even as we have the best intentions of breaking free from that, we still default to behaviors and attitudes that have defined the mediocrity in this program for almost a century. I left a meeting to come here that was facility-based, okay? And if we had another hour, I would take you guys through this meeting and my passion about our facility, because we have to be visionaries and we have to not fit the program into the little puzzle hole that is designated, but we got to blow it out and build it the way we want it to be. And so this NIL conversation, there's a couple things. First of all, early on, it was very hard to create interest in the Vanderbilt community around NIL. I don't blame people for not being inspired by paying college players. The thing I would ask is, do you want to have a program? Because if we don't figure this out quick, we're not going to have one. And we have. We also have to stop relying on 2 or 3 people because the lift has become too heavy. There has to be, we have to diversify interest. Now, our success has allowed, I mean, I met with the chancellor. I have dinner with him once every couple of months. This guy is amazing. And he talks about the flywheels that are operating. He wants to create the greatest higher educational experience in the 21st century. Okay, that's his vision. That's pretty big. He sees Vanderbilt football as one of the flywheels that's going to allow for that to happen. So he is keenly interested in supporting the program at a level that allows it to be competitive and exciting. We can't crowdsource like Ohio State can or like Tennessee can, but I don't know that crowdsourcing is sustainable. I think that's kind of coming and going. What we can do is we can outsmart. We can create mutually beneficial partnerships that allow for us to generate this soft cap, as you say, and puts us on equal footing. We're not there yet. We still lag probably about $10 million behind the top half of our league and probably about 15 to 20 behind the top third of our league. My job is to try to coach into that gap. We've been able to retain at a discount because of the experience we provide. I think our players value being a part of our program. And yet, when we're, for us to take that next step, we got to continue to elevate, and that means, weaponizing this soft cap. So, again, I say mutually beneficial. I'm talking about business partnerships. I'm talking about opportunities to, the Vanderbilt brand is becoming really popular. Again, you're talking about, I think there was like a regular admissions rate, something in the neighborhood of 2.8%, 2.9%. You're going to talk about a total admissions rate somewhere under 5%, 4.8 or 4 point something. I mean, this has become a really popular place. The power of Vanderbilt here locally in business, you're starting to see, we have one of the greatest billboards in the entire city at First Bank Stadium. So people are taking an interest in what we're doing now is starting to create these partnerships, and we're going to win through being smart and actually being good business people rather than just having people come out of their pocket and pay for our roster. And that's going to be where we continue to close that gap.
I'm gonna say a prayer for Clark, and then we're gonna thank him after I'm done. Okay. Loving God, thank you for Clark, the time of the night, his insight, his passion, guide him as he continues to lead Vanderbilt, and I'm just so grateful to have the chance to talk with him tonight. In Christ's name, amen. Let's thank Clark Lee for coming.
Thank you so much. Thanks, dude.
Awesome.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Dinner downstairs if you're hungry.
I've been laying down my head, thinking just how good God's been. And I know I'm not the only one.